Oh boy! If you are a DC movie fan or DC fan in general, today is the day you've been waiting for. It's Christmas time! Christmas has come early or a little late, but hey, we got something, and I'm sure all of you are excited for it. James Gunn and Peter Safran's DC slate has finally been announced, and we have all the details, so I haven't checked it out yet. I haven't read anything. So let's take a look at it together and let's find out what is in store for us for DC in the future. Renee here, LOWKEY GEEK. Thank you for joining me on this special video where we're gonna be taking a look at the brand new announcements from the DC side of things for movies and TVs in looking into the near future and beyond possibly. But before we go into all that, as always, if you like what you see and you want to see more of this, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, hit the notification bell so you get notified every time a new video is uploaded. Of course, if you're looking for an audio version of this or anything else that we do here on the channel, just type in LOWKEY GEEK on your podcast platform of choice, where you could download this episode and many others. Be nice, it doesn't cost a thing and takes only a couple seconds, so go ahead and do that. Now on to the news. So I think it goes without saying that, the DC side of things when it comes to live action movies and some of the TV programming is, for lack of a better phrase, but it's been a hot mess. It's always been a little bit confusing to see like where they're going or what they're planning to do or what they're trying to accomplish here. And I think for a lot of us, and a lot of you DC fans out there, it's been very frustrating. However, we were blessed with the pleasant announcement that James Gunn, guy who brought us Guardians of the Galaxy and who reigns supreme on the Marvel side of things, is jumping ship and going to DC, and now will be heading up the creative efforts for all of the DC live action stuff over there, along with Peter Safran, who he's worked with before. But what does that mean? We don't know, and we weren't really given a lot of details and information. However, we were treated with a lot of unfortunate news for a lot of the fans out there. Henry Cavill, who was excited to be back as Superman, was pretty much told that he will no longer be Superman, at least for the near future, or quite possibly forever, which is unfortunate news for a lot of us. Wonder Woman is kind of like in limbo at the moment, where we heard that the latest script from Patty Jenkins is no longer moving forward, and who knows if Gal Gadot is still going to be involved in things. The Batman seems to be safe. However, Jason Momoa as Aquaman is still TBD. Ezra Miller's Flash is actually coming out this year, but will he continue on? There's been conflicting rumors and reports about, since they've been displaying very good behavior, they may be possibly sticking around as the Flash, perhaps. The Batgirl was canceled, and we had so many other cancellations on the DC TV side of things. So everything was in flux, and people were frustrated, and people were going all over the place saying, oh, I don't know what they're doing. James Gunn's already effing it up for everyone. But he said, and he's always been very active on Twitter, is saying, give me some time. We're working on it. We're coming up with a plan, and we'll let you know come January, or at least before February 1st. Today is actually the 31st of January, so he made it just in time, that we will let everyone know what our plan is. Hopefully you'll be patient enough, and then you'll enjoy the ride. So here we are, like I said, January 31st, and we have the first details of what that grand scheme, the grand plan is from James Gunn and Peter Safran. So I'm here on The Hollywood Reporter, and let's take a look at the article and everything that they wrote up and every detail of the announcement. DC slate unveiled, new Batman, Supergirl movies, a Green Lantern TV show, okay, and more from James Gunn and Peter Safran. The DC studio bosses share 10 projects, talks the exit of Henry Cavill and the potential future of Ezra Miller as the Flash, as they introduced a slate of big heroes and lesser known characters. The stakes are massive for us and for Warner Brothers Discovery, says Safran. Ooh, that's pretty juicy already right there. So let's continue. A new Batman movie without Robert Pattinson, but featuring Bruce Wayne's murderous son. Ooh, Damian. It sounds like we're getting Damian, huh? A Superman movie on the release schedule. Mark your calendars for July 11, 2025. A Game of Thrones style drama set on Wonder Woman's home island of Themyscira. Wow. Amazonian palace intrigue, and an animated series already in production, Creature Commandos. What the heck is that? I don't know anything about that. I should also state that I am not fully versed within the DC universe side of things. There's a lot of characters and a lot of storylines that I am not so much familiar with, so I am not going to be your leading expert today in this video to really unveil and discover a lot of the details of all this stuff. I know the basic stuff, I know what I know, and if you're like me, then that should be fine with you. I'm sure there are going to be tons of videos out there like Comic Book Explained and all that stuff like that who could like further deep dive into all of this stuff, especially for the lesser known stuff, and more than likely I'll be watching those videos as well. Okay, it continues to say here that the pair have been busy in the 3 months since taking over and combining the film and television slate of DC properties, including live action and animation, as well as gaming. Gaming too. I wasn't really aware of that. I guess when they say that James Gunn was going to head up the creative efforts, I guess it just doesn't mean the live action stuff, which I think a lot of people were just really hoping to hear more about. It's interesting that he's going to be pretty much heading up or, you know, overseeing all of the creative side of things. So that's pretty cool. They revamped the way the movie and TV sides do business, cutting ties with projects and creators. Yes, we already know a lot about that stuff. A writer's room was formed to find an overall story that will launch a unified DC universe. I have to reiterate, again, that is important because, you know, James Gunn working with Marvel, he already knows and understands that formula. And I'm pretty sure a lot of us have been hoping for years that DC kind of tries to mimic the same type of formula. It always seems like they were always reactionary and never really had a full thing planned out. So now under James Gunn, who's already coming from that side of things, can lend a helping hand in formulating whatever that long-term goal, storyline, project, whatever the kind of blueprint is going to be for DC moving into the future. And a planned at least part of one for what is being billed as Chapter 1, God and Monsters, was formulated and a slate of projects put into development. Wow, God and Monsters. Woo! It definitely sounds like we're heading into a first phase of something. And I'm sure that's pretty exciting for a lot of you out there, me included. Now, after ambitiously promising fans that they would have something to show by February 1st, Gunn and Safran have unveiled the first part of their slate. It's a combination of big and known heroes along with lesser known characters who may just become big, like the once obscure heroes of Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy films over at Marvel Studios. The duos shared their plans Monday with reporters in a petite and tidy screening room on the Warner Brothers lot in Burbank. Ooh, could you imagine being in that little room and, you know, getting all excited hearing what he's going to be announcing and all that? And I'm not surprised again that he's looking to focus a lot on not just the big known names, but also the lesser known characters. We've already seen him do this with Suicide Squad, all the characters that he introduced there. We already seen him do this with Peacemaker, and he's done it brilliantly. He's already had success with it in the Marvel side with Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm really looking forward more, honestly, to who he's going to bring into the forefront, the smaller characters. There have been rumors about Lobo finally, you know, making the cut, which would be amazing to see. He's one of my favorite DC characters. I think if they have it in them, and if it's still of interest to both him and Safran, that they should now really truly consider the Wonder Twins project, because I was always fascinated by that announcement, and I think no one else would be better, more in handling it than James Gunn himself. I think that would be a brilliant project, but we'll see what this article has yet to say. One of our strategies is to take our diamond characters, which is Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and use them to prop up other characters that people don't know, explained Gunn. And continued Safran, to build those lesser known properties into the diamond properties of tomorrow. While plans may yet shift, cautioned the duo, here is an initial slate of Chapter 1 in the order they hope it will appear. That's interesting. So they have not only the slate covered, but they have a timeline, a semi-timeline. Oh, that is really, really awesome. That's exciting. And then ambitious too. Again, you know, they're working with a very small timeline and schedule. They've only signed, I believe, a 3-year deal with Warner Brothers Discovery. So they're coming out guns a-blazing from what it looks like. And it's really exciting to see what they're going to be doing here. Let's take a look at this slate. And I could already see from the image here, we have something animated. So Creature Commandos, an animated 7-episode series written by Gunn that is already in production. Originally a team of classic monsters assembled to fight Nazis, this is a modern take on the concept. The voice actors have yet to be cast, but the executives are looking to find people who can voice the animated characters and also portray the live action versions when the anti-heroes to show up in movies and show. Interesting. Okay, so he's doing something that I already appreciate here. The fact that he is looking for voice actors that will be able to portray the live action versions of their characters is smart and brilliant. And I know there's been a lot of talk and controversy about the lack of support for voice actors. We saw that with Ahsoka and other things. So I like the fact that they're going that route here. Also, by the look at this image, I mean, look at this image. It looks like freaking Hellboy. And the description kind of sounds like Hellboy, like the BPRD and all that stuff like that. So is this unique and original in its own? I've never even heard of this group. So if you're familiar with Creature Commandos, if this is an existing property in the DC universe, let me know about them in the comments because I'm curious to know more about these guys. Waller, a spin-off of Gunn's own HBO Max hit series Peacemaker. Viola Davis will return as the ruthless and morally ambiguous head of Government Task Force. It is being written by Crystal Henry, who I guess was involved with The Watchmen, and Jeremy Carver, the creator of Doom Patrol TV series. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So I think one of the big debates was, how are they going to continue with the characters that already are existing? If you're getting rid of Cavill, you're possibly maybe getting rid of Gal Gadot, and who knows what's going to happen with Aquaman and Ezra Miller. What's going to happen with the characters that have already been established? Are you going to do a fresh reboot of everyone, or are you going to play the whole multiverse and multi-dimension and all this whatever stuff that allows these people to still exist somehow, and maybe leave the window and doors open for those who played characters in the past to come back, just kind of like what Marvel is kind of doing, right? So it's interesting that we have confirmation here that at least Waller, Viola Davis's character, and herself will still be part of DC moving forward. So that's interesting in its own. Superman Legacy. Oh, here we go. Here's the big one. The movie featuring the Man of Steel that Gunn is writing and may direct, although no commitments on that level have been made. While the two previous titles are meant to be aperitifs, in Safran's words, Superman is the true kickoff for the duo's DCU plans. It's not an origin story, Safran said. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. He is the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. He is kindness in a world that thinks that kindness as old-fashioned. A release date of July 11, 2025 has been penciled in. Wow. Okay, let's talk about this real quick. Superman Legacy. So it sounds like, and this is the way I'm interpreting it, is we're going to get a Superman that's already kind of seasoned, right? Not necessarily old, maybe still somewhat young, but a Superman who's already been doing the job and carrying the role for a little bit of time, but also now is kind of having his own identity crisis or struggling with like who he is, where he came from, and dealing with what he's familiar with in the way he grew up, with other humans and all that stuff like that. I wonder if something spawns that kind of conflict, if maybe another Kryptonian shows up, or kind of like the whole Zod thing where like, you're one of us, you are a god amongst men and all that stuff. Like, I wonder if it's going to play along that kind of, tropes and everything. Now, the thing that really bothers me here is this sounds like a role that Henry Cavill could still play. So what is their vision for the Superman in this type of role? That is something that I'm very curious about. And maybe we'll learn more about it as I continue reading the article. Lanterns. Ooh, I'm excited for this because those of you who know me know I am a huge fan of Green Lantern. I mentioned that Lobo was one of my favorite characters. Well, Green Lantern is probably my all-time favorite DC character. All the iterations, I love them all. I just love the Lanterns in general. So I'm curious where they're gonna go with this. Greg Berlanti's long in the works Green Lanterns TV series has been scrapped, and the duo have parted ways with the longtime DC series setward. In its place will be a new take on the space cops with power rings. Our vision for this is a very much in the vein of True Detective. Whoa. Safran described. It's terrestrial based. It will feature prominent Lantern heroes Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, awesome, and is one of the most important shows that they have in development. This plays a really big role in leading into the main story we are telling across film and TV. Wow. So if they're using Superman as their main character to kind of usher in this new chapter of the DCU, Lantern sounds like they are going to be responsible for formulating whatever that big event or whatever the big event leading. Kind of like how we got Thanos in Marvel, eventually we got Ultron, all that stuff like that, and now we're getting Kang. So it sounds like the Lanterns, because they are space cops, so they have access to everywhere around the universe, will probably help formulate whatever that big event is going to eventually be. So that's really interesting. And I love the fact that it's a TV series, because the lore is so in depth that I feel like the more chances we have with learning more about the characters, learning more about the core themselves. Hal Jordan is already a rich character, and Jon Stewart is freaking awesome. So I love the fact that we're going to have more time in developing them. And along with, the people that they're going to be with, Kilowog, all that stuff like that. I wonder if we may eventually get, the war within the rings and all that, where you get the yellow rings and Sinestro and all that. That could be a later down the line stuff, but it'll be nice if that was still in the, kind of in the back of their minds, because that's some of the best stuff I've ever read in DC Comics. The Authority. I know there are many of you out there who are so excited about this. A movie based on a team of superheroes with rather extreme methods of protecting the planet that first originated in the late 1990s under an influential imprint known as Wildstorm. Again, good for you comic book guys out there who remember that. Run by artist and now head of DC Publishing Jim Lee. One of the things of the DCU is that it's not just a story of heroes and villains, said Gunn. Not every film and TV show is going to be about good guy versus bad guy, giant things from the sky comes and good guy wins. There are white hats, black hats, and gray hats, added Safran. They are kinda like Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. They know that you want them on the wall, or at least they believe that. Interesting. All right. So admittedly, I am not that familiar with the Authority. I just know that they are another more like anti-hero, or a different, like kind of like a different version of like the Justice League. Maybe they're more akin to like the Watchmen in a way. But I know the fan base for the Authority is huge, and I know that the comic has been around forever. I grew up with friends loving the comic series and all that. So it sounds like it's going to be extremely interesting. Interesting that they're going to be focusing on a movie for this instead of a TV series. Again, when you have a team, I think it's better if you have a series to really explore the background of each team member. We kind of saw a little bit of that with the Watchmen series on HBO and how well that was done. You kind of see that with Peacemaker, when you get to learn more about each individual character. And we, of course, seen that in other iterations of other shows. So interesting that they're moving forward with a movie here, but I don't know. I'm open to it. Paradise Lost. The duo described this HBO Max series as a Game of Thrones style drama set on the all-female island that is Wonder Woman's birthplace, Themyscira, filled with political intrigue and scheming between power players. It takes place before the events of the Wonder Woman films. So it looks like we're getting a prequel series here. Maybe we'll get to see a younger Diana, running around with the other Amazonians. I wonder if actresses like Robin Wright are going to be considered to come back and reprise their role in this type of series. But I do love the fact that it's kind of Game of Thronesy like. So this is probably going to be a little bit more on the grittier side of things. So that could be interesting. Maybe we'll get to see like the big battle, that was kind of hinted about, men invading and them having to fight them off, or them having to isolate themselves and all that. So that could be a lot of fun and interesting to see. All right, let's continue on here. The Brave and the Bold. Ooh, this is the introduction of the DCU Batman, said Gunn, of Bruce Wayne, and also introduces our favorite Robin, Damian Wayne, who is a little son of a bitch. Nice. The movie will take inspiration from the now classic Batman run written by Grant Morrison that introduced Batman to a son he never knew existed, a murderous tween raised by assassins. It's a very strange father and son story. And importantly, it will feature a Batman not played by Robert Pattinson. Okay, all right, this is huge because this is telling us that now we're going to be having multiple Batmans. Again, playing with the idea of multi-storylines, multi-universes, dimensions, or whatever the case have you. Very much like the comic books, very much like what we're seeing in Marvel now. Sky's kind of the limit where they could have like these different iterations of things. Especially with how well the Batman did with Robert Pattinson, it would be a shame to kind of like just get rid of that. Especially with, again, how well that movie was received, how well it was done, how the characters were so interesting. So it'll be interesting to see how that's really going to work out. But it looks like while Robert Pattinson's Batman will be an offshoot, kind of like how the Joker was, that this Batman is probably going to be the one that will be connected to everyone else. Their new Superman, possibly their new Wonder Woman, whoever's going to be the Aquaman, whoever's going to be the Flash, and the Green Lantern, and all that stuff like that. So this may be the face of the main universe within the DCU. So that's pretty exciting. And how awesome is it that we're going to be getting a storyline with his son, Damian, who I know a lot of people love this Robin. And this, again, kind of shows that this could possibly be a more grittier version of the DCU. Not gloom like Zack Snyder's version, but we're gonna get some stuff that's gonna be kind of a little bit more grittier and all that. So I'm really interested to see how that's gonna be like. Continuing with Batman, we have the Batman sequel. Okay, Pattinson will continue to portray the Dark Knight in at least one more crime saga movie directed by Matt Reeves. That movie, the executives revealed, will be released October 3rd, 2025, and is being titled The Batman Part 2. Very original, very unique. 2025 is going to be a very big year for DC crowd. Safran, Superman, and Batman within the same year. You got your two heavy hitters right there. And you're gonna be having a new movie featuring each in the same year. That's massive. I mean, 2025, get ready. Mark your calendars. That's going to be huge for you, all you DC fans out there. So that's exciting. Exciting that we're also still going to have a Pattinson version of the Batman. What I'm worried about is, will this be the last time we're going to get to see that? Hopefully not. Booster Gold. This is the one that I know many people have been dying for. So Booster Gold, an HBO Max series based on a unique and lower tiered hero created in 1986. Safran said that the series, it's about a loser from the future who uses basic future technology to come back to today and pretend to be a superhero. Gunn described it as imposter syndrome as a superhero. Okay, that sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. How that's going to play out in the rest of the universe, I don't know. I'm not so familiar with Booster Gold. I am only familiar with him based off of what I saw from Justice League Unlimited, you know, the cartoons and all that stuff. I also remember that there was a comical version of him in the Batman Brave and the Bold series. He was kind of more of like a clown in a way. So it'll be really interesting to see and learn more about this character. So again, for those of you who are familiar with the character, let me know more about him in the comments and what maybe you're excited to see happen and transpire with this new series. All right, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Taking its cues from the recent Tom King written miniseries, this movie project promises to have a different take than what most think of when the idea of Superman's cousin comes to mind. We will see the difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he was an infant, versus Supergirl, raised on a rock, a chip off Krypton, and who watched everyone around her die and be killed in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life, and then come to Earth. She is much more hardcore and not the Supergirl we're used to. All right, so basically we're getting like emo Supergirl, right? A Supergirl who has a chip on her shoulder, you know, someone who just didn't give an F about anything. So sign me up. That sounds like that's going to be a lot of fun. What's going to be really interesting is, again, if this is within the same universe with their new Superman, how they're going to interact together, because, you know, you have the Boy Scout and then you have her, and I'm sure they're going to be butting heads a lot. So I smell sitcom. Swamp Thing, a horror film that promises to close out the first part of the first chapter. Okay, that's it? That's the only blurb about Swamp Thing? Okay, that's kind of lackluster. I wonder if this is a kind of reaction to Man Thing that we got hit with during Werewolf by Night, released on Disney Plus last year. Swamp Thing is a great character, and if you were unfortunate to remember the really bad movies that came out in the 80s, he can be quite a character. So it sounds perfect for James Gunn to kind of bring him into the forefront here. And I'm curious if he's going to have more a hands-on thing with Swamp Thing, especially since it's a horror film. And we all know James Gunn loves that kind of stuff. All right, so it looks like the rest of the article here is going to be talking about possibly things that we already know about, but let's just keep reading here. So before audiences get to those films and series, however, there is a matter of this year's crop movies, starting with Shazam! Fury of the Gods coming out March 17th and continuing with The Flash in June 16th, Blue Beetle August 18th, and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom December 25th. My God, I had no idea that this year was like the DC year. We have so many DC movies coming out. We got, what is it, 4 DC movies? 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow. And Marvel has 3. Jeez. Wow, I had no idea that this year was so stacked. The duo are high on the quartet made by the previous film regime and under the aegis of DC Films run by former head Walter Hamada. Gunn calls The Flash, directed by Andy Muschietti, probably one of the greatest superheroes ever made. Wow. Big praise. And again, continuing with the narrative that we've all been hearing, that the Flash movie is actually probably one of the best DC movies ever made. Go figure. I mean, I am so curious. I can't wait for this movie to finally come out so that we could finally see for ourselves. He also said that the 4 leads of those films could potentially continue playing their leading roles in DCU projects down the line. There is nothing that prohibits that from happening, said Gunn. Again, because multiverse, all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. Among those actors is Ezra Miller, the troubled star of The Flash, who has found themselves in several criminal investigations and pled guilty to trespassing earlier this month, but who also told studio executives that they were getting help. Safran said the executives remained hopeful Miller was on path to betterment. Ezra is completely committed to their recovery. We are fully supportive of that journey they are on right now. When the time is right, when they are ready to have the discussion, we will all figure out what would be the best path forward. But right now, they are completely focused on their recovery. And in our conversation with them in the last couple of months, it feels like they are making enormous progress. Okay, that's interesting. Again, nothing solid, no solid confirmation, but they're keeping the possibilities open for Ezra Miller to return as a Flash. See, keyword or key phrase, as a Flash. Maybe not the Flash moving forward, but a Flash. I won't be surprised if they've already done it, because I know there were reports that Ezra Miller, before really diving into rehab, or maybe while they're in rehab, they were allowed to do some reshoot. I wonder if that was kind of to like pass the baton to who may be, at least for the meantime, carrying the mantle of the mantle of the Flash. Everyone was expecting that the Flash would be like the perfect flashpoint to kind of reset the universe, or more so introduce the multi-universe within the DCU to allow for all those potentials to happen down the line. So really interesting. Again, I really can't wait to see this movie, because I feel like there's going to be so much things revealed in it. It's going to be the low-key, probably for now, most important DCU film that we're going to get until we get the new slate. Right. It's a long article, so we had a lot of stuff here to check out. The duo discussed their approach to casting, whether it was returning or new actors. The TV series will look to cast actors who will also play the parts on the big screen. Wow, interesting right there. Just as John Cena played the violent figure Peacemaker in Gunn's The Suicide Squad, then in the Peacemaker series. Anyone cast in Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart in Lanterns, for example, will then cross over into films. We don't want the series to feel in any way like Stepchildren or lesser than, said Gunn. It's just another way to tell a story. They like being able to spend 8 hours digging deep into certain characters. Yeah, I want to quickly touch base on that, because again, it's showing that they are totally changing their approach here. One of the biggest problems and confusions that the DCU had under Warner Brothers and the previous regime was that you had the CW shows, with all of their characters, their own Superman, their own Flash, blah, 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 Green Arrow and all that. And then you had the movie universe with their other versions. And they made it clear that none of those were ever going to cross paths at all. Now they're making a unified front here, where anything TV related will potentially go into big screen and possibly cross paths with already established characters or the big honchos in the movies. And we may get even vice versa. Who's to say that the new Superman won't show up on a TV show with the Green Lanterns or, whatever the case is. So I like that. It's cohesive, and I think that is something that has been severely lacking on the DC side of things, which I think is going to be a breath of fresh air and a relief to a lot of people. And they took on the touchy subject of Henry Cavill, tipped to return as Superman thanks for a cameo in last year's Black Adam, but who, in the end, will not return as Superman, much to the chagrin of a vocal fan base. We didn't fire Henry. Henry was never cast, said Gunn. That's a nice way to kind of get around it. For me, it's about who do I want to cast as Superman and who do the filmmakers we have want to cast. And for me, for this story, it isn't Henry. He added, I like Henry. I think he's a great guy. I think he's getting dicked around by a lot of people, including the former regime at this company. But this Superman is not Henry for a number of reasons. And the executives also tried to walk the line of if and how to deal with actors who stepped into controversy, with Shazam's Zachary Levi being the most recent example. On the weekend, Levi tweeted words against pharmaceutical giant Pfizer, known for its COVID-19 vaccine, which many interpreted as actor having anti-vaccine views. Oh boy, yeah, I didn't know about that part. What is going on? That's troublesome. And even though troublesome as it is, I feel like James Gunn is going to be well equipped to handle that, because if you remember, he had his own issues. He was fired from Marvel before because of old tweets that just came and resurfaced and were misunderstood. That's how he was able to work with Warner Brothers, doing his Suicide Squad. And then he eventually got rehired at Marvel and Disney because basically the entire cast of Guardians of the Galaxy said, well, we're not going to continue moving on unless you get him back. So I feel like he has a good grasp on how to handle those kinds of things. But I also do think it was a little wormy to kind of put that spin on the whole Henry Cavill casting. The fact that he wasn't fired, but he was just never cast. The dude has been in limbo the whole time, and I'm sure he's under contract for something, right? So in essence, he was still kind of fired, but I do agree with Gunn that he has been dicked around. I feel like he's been kind of like led on with a carrot on a string, tied to, a pole. Like, yeah, no, we got you around here. Don't worry, stick around. We got something working with. Don't worry, you're our Superman, da-da-da-da-da. And I know a lot of you love The Rock and all that, but I do feel like The Rock didn't help matters at all. The fact that he kind of pushed to have Henry in the movie, he fought with Walter Hamada to kind of include him and all that stuff. And he kind of created that false hope for Henry to kind of return as Superman, only to be told, no, it ain't gonna happen, not now. So yeah, it's just a bad situation across the board. So although I appreciate how Gunn is handling it, at the same time, I also can't blame him because he is taking over stuff that was way before him, and he's doing his best to try to play nice with everybody, and he's being very diplomatic about it all. So time will tell what's going to happen with Henry. I'm sure Henry will eventually work with Gunn and Warner Brothers Discovery, potentially in the DCU, but I also think Henry is going to be perfectly fine doing other projects. And I think now it's kind of time to let go of that dream, unfortunately, of carrying on the mantle of Superman and do something else. Create your own other character or take on another character that has not been filled yet. He's perfectly, capable of doing so. So we'll see what happens. All right, the article continues. Actors, filmmakers that I work with are going to say things that I agree with and things that I don't agree with, said Gunn, who in 2018 was temporarily fired. See, again, I just brought this up. By Disney as director of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 due to old offensive tweets. I can't be changing my plans all the time because an actor says something that I don't agree with. At the same token, if someone is doing something that is morally reprehensible, that's a different story, and we have to take that into account. Again, I'm not surprised about this. Yeah, he's familiar with it. We also saw the same situations with certain actors and actresses from Marvel. So it's gonna happen, right? It's gonna happen. Though the duo are working in one DC universe, some stories will stand apart. Reeves' Batman movies and Todd Phillips' sequel to the Joker will fall under a banner titled DC Elseworlds. There you go. Which will, just as in the comics, fall outside the larger continuity of the DCU. The Black Superman project, being written by Ta-Nehisi Coates under the previous regime, remains in active development and would also fall under that category. Teen Titans Go, the popular and long-running cartoon series on Cartoon Network, also falls under that banner, the duo said. The bar is going to be very high for projects to be outside the DCU, the Elseworlds projects, explained Safran. But every now and then there will be something that lives up to that. Okay, that's fascinating in its own way too, because I did not know that the Black Superman project was still, ongoing, that was still happening. From what it sounds like, it's still happening. And I think that's fantastic. A lot of you don't remember, there was a report that there was a Black Superman movie in the works with possibly Michael B. Jordan tied to the project. I know it caused a lot of controversy and stir, blah, blah, blah. Get over it. Come on. There's nothing wrong with the Black Superman. Make him Asian, make him, I don't know, Indian, doesn't matter. The story's a story, and if the story is great, then let it happen. But it's interesting, again, kind of like I hinted to before, that they are really maintaining that DC Elseworlds universe. So we can continue to see Pattinson's Batman, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, because we already know we're getting the sequel and all that stuff. And what else is going to fall under that banner? I think this is going to be also a great time and a great portion of the DCU that will allow for experiments and for them to work on experimental projects. Remember I said the Wonder Twins earlier? I think that could be perfect under the Elseworlds banner. Lobo, that could potentially live under the Elseworlds banner. The rumors and reports about Constantine 2 being in the works, that might be Elseworlds content there too. So I like that they're allowing themselves to say, yeah, we got our main universe here, but yeah, we also got the side universe here that we will allow for maybe more independent filmmakers, more experiments, and all that stuff, more noir-like films to be made under the DC banner. So I love that. Article continues to say the duo are putting a premium on screenplay writing, saying that would prevent the dreaded feeling of superhero fatigue and also give the projects a tonal and thematic difference from each other. Gunn called out the degradation of screenwriters in Hollywood and also said that the duo wanted to be respectful of the voice of filmmakers they were working with up to a point. It's not the Gunverse. The Gunverse. It's not, Gunn said. It's got to be all these different feels from all these different stories. That's what makes it so fun. The stories are completely different and each has the individual expression of the writers and the director that are making those projects. But he added, we're not stupid. Not every filmmaker is going to be happy, because if someone is doing something that isn't working, we're going to be honest. Yeah, I think it's important for them to state that because, again, it kind of covers their ass, right? Now, there's always been mistakes in the past, and, Marvel has been at fault for some of this. Star Wars has definitely been at fault for this, but DC for sure. Well, they will announce all of these type of projects, all of these titles, all this IP, and then year, 2 years, 3 years, everything changes. Things get canceled, things get pushed around, things get changed. So it looks like they're going to try their best to stick to these projects. But if they don't like the way a certain project is going, they are going to probably change the people who are involved with them. So that's really, really interesting to see there. But it looks like they're going to stick to their guns, no pun intended, when it comes to stuff like that. Article continues to say that Gunn and Safran's hiring were the culmination of over a half-year quest by Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav to find someone to lead a screen division of DC. In his own words, was a okay. So the article continues to talk about like the background between the hiring of Gunn and Safran. Zaslav's vision, wanting to have a Kevin Feige-like character or head honcho, heading up the DC side of things. I kind of like this. I want to read this quote here. As Gunn said, the history of DC is pretty messed up, referring to the turmoil and the disconnectivity that has roiled DC plans for Warner Brothers Pictures for the last dozen or so years. There was filmmaker Zack Snyder's multi-movie universe that sputtered halfway through. There was an attempt to course correction by Joss Whedon that maybe made things worse. There, the several changes in studio leadership and ownership. And there was the Arrowverse, the successful, if niche, TV side of DC that aired for over a decade on the CW. No one was mining the mint, says Gunn. They were always they were giving away IP like they were party favors at any creator who smiled at them. For Gunn, being handed the keys to a comic book universe are like something out of a childhood dream. So again, it's exactly what I said. How everything was such a mishmash and kind of hot mess that it looks like Gunn is really going to be taking the reins and correcting a lot of that stuff and not repeating the same mistakes. At least that is the hope and that is the aim, right? The article continues to talk about a little bit background story on James Gunn and how much of a comic book fan he is. Gunn now wants to bring that magic and connection to movie going and TV watching audiences by revamping DC Studios in a way that hasn't been done before. I have an incredibly deep connection to these characters, to these stories, and to wanting to create that type of magic, not only in the kid that I was, but in the connection that I had with my father, with friends later on. Gunn explained, wanting to create a unified world in DC where we tell stories. In the end, both Gunn and Safran know not only what it is at stake, but also the enormous opportunity being presented to them. For Safran, it's a chance to impact and change the culture, be it the company culture of how it approaches storytelling to the broader pop culture. Gunn lit up the giddiness at the pure magic of it all. This is not only a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, it's a once opportunity. It's me now. No one has ever gotten to do this before. And how could I say no to that? So it looks like after the news and the articles were released and broke, James Gunn also released a video where he basically summarizes the announcement. Now you're hearing it from his voice, and he's talking mainly, I think, in my opinion, to the fans. He's letting everyone know that, look, this is what we have planned. This is what we are working with. Here are the details of the projects, at least as much details as I can give you, and how much he loves these properties and loves being a fan of comic books and all that. So no need to really react to it because it's basically a regurgitation of the new article I just went through and everything that was released. So, but if you want to hear it and see it for yourself, you could find it there on Twitter, and I'm pretty sure it's going to make its way onto YouTube anytime now. Again, it's just nice that he is really being so protective of the fans and his kind of relationship with the fans. Like, he wants to make sure that everyone knows that he is very sincere and is hardworking and is really doing his best to make sure that he puts out the best type of projects and product out there, so that everyone who are fans like him, people who are geeks and nerds like all of us, will benefit and enjoy everything that we're going to get to watch, whether it's movies or TV. All right, so that's it. That's the article in its entirety. And that's all the news and announcements made. So look, this is going to be a very interesting next couple of years for DC, for Warner Brothers Discovery, for the slate of movies, the TV shows, all the projects. I had no idea that this year was so heavy with DC content coming out. This is the last crop of the old regime. Let's see how it's going to play nicely with the new stuff that they have planned. But it looks like we don't have much time really to wait for when that's going to eventually start to kick in, with the main slates being that 2025 year when you got new Superman coming out. That's going to kind of spearhead everything. Now, it's also interesting because that would mean that Gunn and Safran's contract would be coming to an end around that year. So could that potentially lead to an extension, a re-up, or were they really just hired and put together to kind of come up with this one slate, chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, as they're calling it, and maybe in the next couple of years come up with chapter 2, chapter 3, and then good luck. Who knows? I would love it if they could keep them on board, because if this is what is in store, if this is what they have going on for now, it sounds and looks exciting. Now, things that are missing here. No Wonder Woman, right? No real mention of Jason Momoa and Aquaman. So I guess we'll see what happens with Aquaman when the new movie comes out. Maybe we'll find out what's going to happen to him there. But the lack of Wonder Woman news is a little concerning. Maybe that's something that's going to be more detailed and revealed in the next couple of days, couple of weeks, whatever the case is. It was a struggle wait for Wonder Woman to finally grace the big screen. Many of you, and me included, were waiting for her to finally be represented there. It is also very important to have female-led characters make their mark on TV and on the big screen. Marvel has a great slew of them now with the Marvels, with former Black Widow, but now we got Yelena and all that. We got, Hawkeye with Kate Bishop. So they got a nice slew of female-led characters, coming to the forefront. Based on the information that we just got now, their slate lacking females. That's going to be something that they're going to need to desperately correct soon. Make some new announcements, some addendums, okay, we gave you this slate. Now here is what else we're going to do. Yeah, you got the Waller series, but she's more of like a chief, right? Like a head of an agency, like a government agency, and kind of giving out the orders and all that stuff like that. She is not really like a superhero, right? We need someone with positivity. Yeah, we also got Supergirl, but I feel like that's not enough, because Supergirl, even though is a beloved character, no one is as more beloved than Wonder Woman is. So it'll be really interesting to see what they're going to do with that character, and if Gal Gadot will have anything to do with it at all. But yeah, that's a lot of stuff there, and it's fascinating, it's exciting, and I'm sure a lot of you out there are going to be dissecting and speculating and all that stuff. And you know what? Have at you. Go ahead. You have all the ammo at your fingertips right now, and I'm sure, as he always does, James Gunn will be manning Twitter and responding to tweets and all that good stuff. So I'm sure he'll be filling in some of the holes and more details in the days to come. But again, I am so curious about what all of you think about all this news. What are some of the things that you're most excited for? What are some of the things that you're not as excited for? And what are the things that you're still missing and you want to hear more about? Let me know about all that stuff in the comments. Again, thank you so much for watching and listening. Don't forget, like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Get more content like this, support the channel, and you get to hang out with myself and this great community. That's going to be it for me for today. Stay cool, stay classy, stay safe, and stay sane. And I'll see you all in the next one. All right, peace out, y'all.